I'm so excited. We're about to embark on an adventure of a lifetime. We're about to integrate Google Cloud. Now, for a lot of you, this can be scary, and for some of you, this may be completely rudimentary. You've done this before. But for a lot of you, this may be something that gets you excited. It makes me excited. So, Google Cloud is one of those things where we're trying to extend our functionality by taking in data that Google is giving us. Google is giving us all of these endpoints, these resources that we can just ping, and we can use them to make our app smarter. Now, if you've never created a Google Cloud account for, basically here on the screen, new customers get $300 in free credits to spend on Google Cloud. So each and every one of you will get $300 in credits when you start an account, but you still need to supply payment information. Now, on top of that, there is also a $200 credit for the Google Places and Google Maps usage. So it would be hard for you to utilize all of that straight out of the gate. But with this usage, you're basically set up properly to try things out. That doesn't mean that you're completely safe of, like, if you make a bad coding decision, you could easily go over $300 in credits. Now, that said, I'll tell you a story later on of how I did this, and it's a stressful one, but if you're on this screen, basically what you want to do is you want to hit get started for free. And when you hit get started for free, it's basically going to ask you to sign up for the terms and services, and that will give you all of your information. If you haven't set up payment yet, this is where you'll have to set up payment information and addresses and so forth. And then you'll start your free trial. You'll get $300 in free credits. You'll get no auto charge after the free trial ends. We ask you for your credit card to make sure you are not a robot. You won't be charged unless you manually upgrade to a paid account. It's important to note here that what they mean by this is that although you won't be charged, basically none of the services will work without having a billing account or credit card information available. That's why it's extremely important that you do link this to your account. If you do not have that payment information, none of the services of Google Cloud will work beyond your trial period. And so you need to make sure, before we get deep into integration of Google Cloud, I wanted to tell you a cautionary story, and it's a hell of a story. I almost vomited when this happened. Now, I've seen this happen many, many times in my job, working for different clients when they're implementing Google Cloud provider services. And this is just a cautionary tale. It's not that you need to be deathly afraid of working with cloud service providers, but you have to pay attention. It's not something you want to play around with. And I'll tell you why. On December the 6th, right? Back over here, December 5 to 6. It was an evening like any other. I was just coding. I was coding away, building meals to go. And I was going through the motions of kind of working through all of the different parts that I needed to do. And so I was doing some traffic to Google Cloud, building out the infrastructure. And I had built out a function, a search function that was going to hit the Google Cloud API and the geocoding API, specifically in the Places API. And I had put a function somewhere inside of a render body just to test it out quickly, and I had forgotten about it. I just didn't pay attention. And then I hit a use case where I was trying something out, and it was silently re-rendering. The components started re-rendering without me knowing, and I didn't notice because the app was just there. Nothing was happening. I didn't have any logs anywhere. And so I went away for like 2 or 3 minutes, got some water, came back, and looked at my dashboard. To my surprise, I had done 86,000 requests to the geocoding API. It had silently been re-rendering for those 5 minutes, and it had been hitting the geocoding API continuously. Hadn't stopped. Needless to say, when I saw this, I almost puked because you go into panic mode. What did I do? Where is this happening? I don't remember doing any of this. And when I found my mistake, just leaving a stray function call somewhere inside of a body of a component, which is a bad practice to start with, but I was just testing something out. When I had found my mistake, I was mortified. But it happens. These things happen. And what are you going to do? Well, first of all, I had a panic attack. And to be honest, like at that point, well, my first reaction was to contact Google. And luckily enough, they helped me out. They gave me a credit on my bill. They saw that all of the usage was incurred in the same exact moment, on the same exact day, in the same exact hour, and that it was a fluke. And they helped me out. But it's better to prevent than need to get through the situation where you need to go and look at this usage and say, well, now I have a $500 bill. So with that, they gave me some strategies that I already knew, I just hadn't implemented. And we're going to go through that so that you can prevent making a similar mistake. And I've seen this happen at clients as well. But instead of 86,000 requests, we're talking about millions of requests. So you need to be very cautious about how you set everything up when you use a cloud provider. Safety is the most important thing. You need to understand what you're doing, configuring everything to the most granular quota that you can set. And that's what we'll be looking at as well. But this is a cautionary tale just so that you know that mistakes can happen, and there's tales about this all over the internet. And I'm just saying this because I want you to know that you need to pay attention. You need to pay attention because although you have a $300 free quota, if you start a new account and you have this $200 quota for the places in the geocoding API free usage, it's very easy if you don't set up the proper guardrails to go over. Now with that, don't be too afraid of using cloud providers. It is honestly fine. You just need to be careful about how you're coding. So with that, that was my mistake. Now that we know everything there is to know about Google Cloud and all of the safety measures we need to take, we also understand that Google Maps is one of the foremost providers. So right now, what we want to do is create a new project. And by creating a new project, we're going to call it Meals to Go. And this project is going to be where we get our information from, how we're going to configure APIs. So for me, it's going to be in an organization. For you, it won't probably be in an organization. It'll be on your individual account, but just create the project. And then what you will have is the ability to choose that project. I have 2 projects for Meals to Go. I'm going to show you in this project that is now being set up, how to set up the corresponding APIs that we will need in order to integrate. So now that it is set up, if we go over here, what we can see is that on the dashboard, everything is set up with our billing and so forth. And what we can do now is we can go look at what products we need. So the first product we're going to need is the Places API. So we're going to search for Places and we'll select Places API. Then we'll select Enable. And once we enable that API, it is now available on our Google Cloud for us to configure. The second thing we'll need is the Geocode API. Now, the Geocode API is one that we'll use to translate location, a city into a location, latitude, longitude. And so enabling that will allow us to basically do requests to get that information. There's 2 things we need to do. First off, we need to set credentials, and second off, we need to set quotas. So let's go ahead and set quotas ahead of time. Right here, I'm in the geocoding API, which I've enabled, Places API and the geocoding API. And I can also configure it for all of the Maps platform, but you have to set quotas on the specific API. So we'll go to geocoding API, and then we'll go to requests. And what you're going to see here is that currently it is configured for unlimited requests per day, 3,000 requests per minute, and requests per minute per user unlimited. This is what can catch you when you, for instance, have no limitations set. It will not stop the requests from coming in, meaning that you need to set limits for the amount of requests you want to do per day so that your costs will be caught if you make a mistake. So what we're going to do is we're going to say for requests per day, we're going to disable unlimited and we're going to set it to 1,000. And then we're going to say we're sure we're reducing the quota. For requests per minute, we're also going to change it and we're going to configure it to be amount of requests per minute that is more reasonable. So we'll set that to 100 requests per minute. That way we're sure that if we hit a limitation within that minute time frame, we can cancel out. And then on top of that, what we'll do is we'll set requests per user per minute also to 1,000. And here, reduce the quota. We can always adjust these based on usage. If we're hitting limitations, the API will send us an error and we can adjust our quota. These are just there in place so that we can be careful. And then on top of that, what we'll do is we'll go to our other API here, the Places API, and we're going to set quotas in place for that as well. Now, it's extremely important that you do this step. If you don't do this step, you're not going to have the safety net of configuring Google Cloud properly. So we're going to set requests per day to 1,000 as well. We're going to set requests per minute to 1,000 as well. And then we're going to set requests per minute per user to 1,000 as well. So all of these are going to be 1,000 so that we are sure that we won't go overboard. And once we've configured all of these, what we can do is we can go ahead and configure the credentials that we'll need. So the last one we'll need to do is over here, set it from unlimited to a quota of 1,000. And once we've saved that, we've now configured Google Cloud for the safety measure of the quota. What we'll need to do next is we'll need to go look at credentials. And what we'll see here is that in order to configure our authentication, we're going to need something named an API key. So it's going to say, currently we have no API keys. What we'll do is we'll go to credentials and API services. And what we'll need to click here is create credentials. And we're going to create an API key. And by creating an API key, we're going to create an API key that we can use to talk to Google. This is going to be our unique identifier that we use to talk to Google. And what we want to do next is we want to restrict the key. And by restricting the key, we'll disable it from being able to be used with certain APIs. So we're going to say this API key is only for places and geocoding. And we're limiting its use specifically to those two APIs. That's another layer of protection that we're adding in. And now that we've saved this, we have our API key available and we can now use it to do our calls. Make sure you keep that close because we're going to be using it to set up other services and our connection to Google, that you have valid billing information.